everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tech Talk Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and I'm joined with my best, Neil Tardy. How you doing today, Neil?
I'm good. Weather's great. It rained this morning, but it's nice and sunny out today, or right now. So, can't complain.
You can. You can. It's just no one wants to hear it, Neil.
Well, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
True. Yeah. Pretty excited today. We got another kind of streamlined, let's say, a set of things, but actually some pretty big news. I'm also excited. This is like an actual TikTok Tuesday because we actually have a story about TikTok.
That's right.
And much like every other time we have a story about TikTok, it's a little bit depressing. So let's start there. Neil, what's the situation with TikTok, man?
Well, we all know TikTok likes to collect probably the most data out of any social media outlet that people use. That's not an exaggeration either. Like the amount of things that they actually collect is pretty insane. But they have now said that they're going to start collecting face prints and voice prints. What does that mean, you may ask? Well, that's a really good question because it's very vague in their new privacy policy as well. They don't outline what they're collecting it for or what that even is. So yeah, if you don't know who originally created TikTok, it was a Chinese company called ByteDance, I believe. And yeah, so there's this whole scuffle with Trump about, okay, well, they're a Chinese-owned company. They're using it to spy on us. Okay. Yes, but so are every other social media platform ever as well. But this was just Chinese owned. So they had to sell to somebody in the US. They did. But yeah, obviously they're still collecting data. But yeah, so this is really interesting because it's only very specific places and under very specific guidelines. But because there are no actual laws regulating this type of stuff, they can get away with it pretty much everywhere. There's only a few states that actually have laws around this. Their privacy policy does not actually state are they taking the federal or the state law. So yeah, so I mean, there's no real. They intentionally made this vague so they could get away with it until somebody tells them this is not okay, which is not okay. But
what do you do though? I mean, what if I said, so what? Who cares? Like, what are they doing? Like, what are they going to get pictures of my face and some samples of my voice? What could possibly go wrong?
Right. Well, the problem is that something we've talked about in the past is that the government is buying this data when they are not allowed to do that. But if a third party, their TikTok, and for example, is selling this data to third party, like basically suppliers, and then the government is basically using a loophole to go buy these things. So, and it's not just the government; it's health agencies, it's insurance companies, it's advertisers, it's all of these people that are trying to influence you in the way that you think. And I'm trying not to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, but like that's what's happening. If you haven't watched The Social Dilemma, that's what they're trying to do. And that documentary really shows you how they go about doing that. So yeah, these are all trying to do that. If you're interested in what some of the things TikTok already captures from you, it actually takes your location data based off your SIM card and IP address and GPS. That's pretty normal. Pretty normal as far as social media goes. It's not normal. How you actually use TikTok, the content that you create or upload, the data that you actually send in your messages, any of the metadata. So just kind of, that's a lot of like location data. What can they figure out from the pictures or things that you're sending? Any cookies, app or file names actually on your device, your battery state, and even your keystroke patterns and rhythms, which is really weird. I have no idea what they're doing with that, but that's really interesting. And that's just things that they don't actually tell you, or you don't like opt into when you create a account. So like,
what could you do with face prints, voice prints, and key patterns? Oh, I know. Authenticate. right? Like that's like an easy in, right? With things like Face ID being so prevalent, being able to generate AI models, based on scans, and then use those as an unlocking pattern. That's like not even hard.
Yeah.
And then we talk about voice prints. You remember, like in the movies, like it always used to be like, my voice is my password, and that's how you would get it. Like you could never get away with that now because who cares? Like I can mimic, I can pull up an app and have it mimic you in like probably within 15 minutes. I should try that sometime. It would be good just when you're not around. That way I'd feel like, hey, I got a buddy to talk to. But and then the patterns, like right, like the keystroke patterns. I think you could start to maybe guess, right? Like okay, well, what are they likely to do? What are their patterns look like? So then what's probably their unlock pattern for their phone or for their devices? So that sounds super nefarious, but only because it is. And again, we talk about nothing's free, right? So if you're using TikTok and you think, man, this is so cool, like I have to pay to subscribe to Netflix, I got to pay to subscribe to all these other services, but man, I get all this like content and little bites delivered to me for free. It's not. And I think you got to really be in tune with what is the cost, and the cost is your behavior.
Yeah. And I think that this just like really continues to illustrate how far behind we are legislating this. And like you shouldn't have to have a law degree to understand a privacy policy, and you do. Like if you really want to fully understand what the privacy policy is saying for these places or for these social media platforms, like you have to have some level of like literacy in that, and like not a whole lot of people do. And so
I don't. I mean,
yeah.
it's hard. I don't. I mean, I fall asleep reading those things.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, it continues to show how far behind the U.S. is legislating this. The EU has significantly stricter laws around privacy and user privacy that are a great start, but could still probably be expanded from there too. So, yeah, I mean, it just shows how woefully behind we are here.
Yeah. So be aware. It's not to say that TikTok is evil. It's not to say that they're doing anything with it, but they're selling it. Like just be like it's out. Your data, much like every other social media, is out for the highest bidder. So this isn't meant to say like we're anti TikTok. It's we're anti ignorance, right? Like you just be aware, right? I use TikTok. I'm aware of what they're taking from me, right? Like, and I try to be careful about what that is and keep that in the forefront, just like I do everything. But always assume you're being recorded, and always assume that data is going somewhere, right? So speaking of data kind of that went somewhere and then disappeared, this is a great one. So a couple of things here. One, we may have to introduce some of our followers to what a floppy disk is. If you've not seen one, this is one of them. This is one type. This is like the ladder type of floppy disk. This is not it's less floppy, more disk, right? Yeah, this is a great story about one of the developers, one of the guys that actually were putting together dialogue and working through like triggers for a game. He had all this, think about like an entire script almost for a movie, right? But a multi optional movie, right? Like a choose your own adventure movie, right? So it's for the Nintendo game on this floppy disk. And he thought he accidentally used it, right? So he formatted it and added other files on top of it. And he thought, wow, I just lost all that stuff. But on a whim, right? He sends it off to these guys that are huge on really conserving, kind of all this old classic gaming stuff, right? And he said, hey, give it a shot, see if you could pull this stuff off here. And they did. And so what came of this then was this huge tome of never before released kind of information on a game that ultimately, when it came to the US, was called Earthbound. And it's neat. It's neat from a kind of like, I don't know, just kind of a geeky kind of archive sense. But it's also really interesting because as you dig into it, you get a sense of the process, right, that goes into making a game and what gets cut, right? Much like a movie, right? There's probably a ton of stuff on the cutting room floor a lot more than makes it actually into a game. And so it's neat to kind of get it there. So if you get a chance, the link is in our description. Definitely give it a look. I know you remember what a floppy disk is, don't you, Neil?
I do, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, you had to live through that too.
I did. I did.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know. I always like finding something that I thought was lost that ever happened to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the classic like games too, like old games that you haven't thought about in a long time that just like kind of come back and there's like a new discovery or something with it. Like that's just always cool to kind of see. I think it's really interesting because it seems like they cut a lot of the fourth wall stuff, which was something that like Earthbound was known for.
Yeah.
Because it cut the fourth wall a lot more than any Nintendo game before it. But there was even more of that that they found. So I thought that was really cool. I think it's just cool that that stuff like this keeps getting found. Like on a whim, he just was like, maybe there's something on it, like I'll send it off, whatever. And then all this cool things come on and it just kind of like reinvigorates that whole community. And I just really love that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Anytime they can dig up something old like that. Well, that's how they found me. So you just dig up something old and you're like, ta-da, and then nobody cares. Something that you might care about. Did you happen to catch this? Like the actual the announcement and what is that? The talk, I guess, that they give about releasing new iOS stuff. Did you see this?
Not, but I've read through this, and there is some interesting stuff here, but ultimately it's kind of like for me. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, cool. So I think the first thing, and this is one of the things that I think we're super proud about, is this concept of SharePlay, and SharePlay kind of goes throughout several different apps, but really at its core, it's FaceTime with a group or one or more people, right? And it's used as a synchronization system, right? So it's like, okay, you can listen to the same music and you can watch the same show. You can even share your screen kind of like, so while you're FaceTime, I think that's kind of cool. So you could actually, if you're trying to look up, this actually happens. I don't know why it shouldn't, but it does, where my wife and I are on the phone with each other and looking on Amazon at the same time. Okay, let me see if I can find that. Oh, I see that. And sometimes it's just nice to be able to be viewing the same thing. Oh, do you see this? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Is this what you were talking about? Yeah, this is nice. Right before, you give all your money to Jeff Bezos. But this is one of those features that feels very like pandemic oriented. It may be a little too late, but I think it's cool. There's been apps and stuff that kind of do this stuff already. The one thing I think that has the most survivability for me, and again, maybe it's a little generational. In fact, it's a lot generational, is the idea of having kind of like a not karaoke, excuse me, like a DJ system, right? And I'm like, where has that been? Like, why is that just now a thing where you have a group of people who can add things to a playlist and shuffle things around and kind of vote things up and down? Like, it's one of those things that just seems so obvious. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, like you said, this does feel a little bit too late for this. Nice to haves, obviously. But yeah, I mean, do I see myself using this like often? No, not really. But yeah, I mean, again, like really nice to have if I need to use it, but I'm not going to like go out of my way or find myself using this all the time, I don't think.
Exactly. I'm looking for things that change my days, right? Like that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
This is another one, spatial audio. So if you're FaceTiming with people, they're kind of distorting the sound so that wherever it shows up on your screen. So if looking at us right now, I'm on top and you're kind of on the bottom, when you talk, it would sound like it's kind of coming from the bottom of my phone, sort of. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, who cares, right?
Yeah.
I do think the blurry background thing, I mean, welcome to Zoom, right?
Right.
Like that's so okay. The mic mode's kind of neat in that it will try to basically do sound cancellation. Like it'll actually try to focus on your voice if you want it to, or you can go with a wide spectrum, which means like I really want you to hear the concert and all the crazy stuff that's going on behind me, because sometimes you do want that. But again, cool, right? Same thing here, right? The ability to schedule and share a FaceTime call via a web link. Again, this is a very Zoom-like, right?
Yeah. Like this is literally Zoom. So like,
Yeah. So I'm like, next,
yeah,
adding some emojis, and seeing the things that have been shared with you in kind of a slightly different, kind of a, what do I want to say, like a swipeable kind of system. Okay, cool. Um, this ability to focus, I thought this is, okay, this is again, novel-ish, but if you're working out, which I never am, but if you're more gaming or reading, which okay, you can have customized messages and stuff, and they will automatically show up in your messages app with your friends. So if they're getting ready to text you, they may see that, oh, I see you're busy doing something. I'm just going to leave you alone. If it's any of our friends, though, they're just going to do it anyway. So interesting, a little bit of a doctoring up of the notifications. Things are looking good. Maps. We actually talked about that. Chad actually had a good segment about this. That this was coming. Yeah, you got some interesting 3D kind of rendering. And I think that's kind of neat visually, but again, the novelty of that I think wears off pretty quick. But they're giving you traffic information now. I don't know. That feels like Waze, right?
yep.
Yeah. So again, I'm having a hard time getting excited here, right? Safari, cool. You know what? It's a web browser. You're not doing anything super cool there. Search the web with your voice. Okay, whatever. Like, still don't really care. The ability to add my driver's license to my Apple Wallet. Okay, that's kind of neat. Again, subject to states. I don't know what states are going to adopt this. And the ability to use like a key card. So if you're staying at like a Marriott or something like that, you can actually use your phone to unlock that. But guess what? Marriott had their own app that did this exact same thing for a very long time. So again, not a lot new, but I get it. Like you're kind of putting things all in one place. I can have a little bit of appreciation for that. However, Neil, I'm excited about this next one.
Yes, I do.
Live text. So this is cool. This is something that I'm used to seeing through like Google Translate. Like if you hold up and kind of, for instance, when I was over in Germany, like I was able to kind of hold this up and it would translate text. And oh, okay, I could see where I'm supposed to be, and this is probably not it. That kind of thing. This is a really cool AI-driven piece that will actually recognize text. So it'll say, oh, this is a phone number. Oh, this is just a text blurb. This is somebody's name. This is an address. And it gives you contextual actions that you can do based on that. And the cool thing is you don't just have to be the guy up there holding your phone to do it right then there on the spot. You can actually take photos and it'll lift all this stuff off of photos as well. I think it's kind of cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's kind of reminds me a little bit of like just like a smarter PDF type of thing where it's like where you can just like copy and paste some stuff out of a PDF. So as far as like how hard is this, I'm not necessarily sure because you can kind of do some like text string stuff to figure out if it's a email or a phone. But this is really neat because it's all going to be like at the palm of your hand, right? So yeah, I do think that this is neat that you can do it on the fly or just with a photo. But yeah, I don't think anything that they did was like super technically difficult here. But it is cool and nice to see for sure.
If this gets rid of QR codes, I'm happy.
Please.
I mean, because you think about it, like you're effectively replacing in the middle instance, right? You have somebody's name, you have an address, and you have a phone number. That would usually be either 3 different QR codes, or it would send you off to a website where you're going to end up scrolling and clicking through something anyway.
True.
This way, you don't have any kind of weird QR code targeting thing that you have to do. It's all just right there. I think that's pretty cool, and I would love to see this adapted to even like packaging, right? Like, so it's like, manufacturers get smart about this stuff in stores, like, oh, take a photo of it, save it for later, but you have access to all this rich information just right off of a photo. I'm like, God, that'd be nice. So
yeah,
pie in the sky, but we'll see how it goes, right? This is one of the last few that I was kind of like, it'd be interesting to see this visual lookup. This has kind of been the holy grail. You and I both know this. Like there's been so many apps that have come and gone and said, just take a picture of this thing and we'll tell you what it is and we'll tell you more information about it. Here we are again. So with visual lookup, that's the idea, right? So you actually, based on where you are, like your positioning and stuff, and then like actually looking through this app, this visual lookup kind of app, which is essentially just a camera, right? It allegedly will look this stuff up and actually give you contextual information based on that. And to be clear, this is not live text. This isn't like it's reading something. It's visually learning, at least allegedly, right, from what you're seeing. I'm having a hard time getting excited about this because I just almost can't believe it's going to work very well.
Yeah, I mean, I've used like plant identifiers and things like that, which is where I've seen this a lot before. It's pretty hit or miss because I know a lot of that stuff. And so I'm like, yeah, that's wrong. So yeah, I'm curious to see how well this does and how it learns, because if this is like a neural network of some sort, it'll continue to learn and it'll continue to get better over time the more people use it. So yeah, depending on how they've actually built this could be something that actually continues to get better with time, the more people use it. But the caveat is that it has to be good enough for people to use it initially to continue to get better, right? You have to get a user base for that to happen. So yeah, it will be interesting. This will be cool if it works out. If not, it's just another one of those things that people have tried in the past and have failed, and it's just another fail,
Yeah. There's definitely some other things that are in here. I mean, all these little updates. Of note, the last thing I'd leave you with is this iCloud Plus. If you're used to having your iCloud Drive, that was a nice free little place for you to put things. You still will kind of have that. They're just rebranding it as iCloud Plus, expanding kind of its functionality, well, of course, going to charge you. So it's going to move subscription. And then I think the final thing that I got super excited about was this hide my email. If you're filling out forms and you're constantly tired of junk mail coming to your personal email, the idea is that this will catch those, generate basically a fake email address for you. But because they'll every company does this thing, right? Well, they send you an email and they say, put in the code that we sent you so that we know that we actually can get a hold of you, kind of thing, right? This actually will link it to your personal email address for as long as you want. But the moment that you kind of are tired of it, you can just get rid of that junk email address. You still have your pristine, not really, who has a pristine email address anymore? But as much as it was before, you will still have that. I think that's kind of cool. And it seems to piggyback off of kind of the idea of like that, the Apple ID kind of thing. And I think that's kind of cool. I would like to see more things support that. But we'll see, I guess, how that goes.
Yeah, I don't know. This for me kind of depends on what you want to use it for. Like there's a thing called like 10-minute emails, which is basically the same thing as this. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like if it's still linked to my personal account, I'm still getting all those spam emails. They just don't have my email account. So once I kill this one, I stop getting them, which is fine. But they have to give you an option to unsubscribe, which companies make it extremely hard to do that, but you can do it. But yeah, I don't know. This one for me is just kind of like a cool, but whatever, because there's other ways of doing it again. Like there's other ways of doing this. But yeah, I mean, it's nice if I'm sitting there on my phone trying to sign up for something. Yeah, sure, maybe I'll use this, but sure. I'm not going to go out of my way to use it again, right? It's not game changing for me at least.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is what happens if you do this and then you go to sign back in. You know what I mean? Will you remember this fake? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see how that works. So
yeah, I mean, they're kind of trying to keep you in the chain because they want you to use your iCloud keychain, or whatever they call it. And still like we have all your passwords, so use them. Like, so. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, you're either giving it to to person A or person B. So
right.
Like whatever.
Yep.
But really, there's of course other things. I don't know. All in all, I give it 2 shrugs.
Yeah, 2 out of 5 shrugs.
Yeah. So the only other thing I would leave you with is a special note for Mr. John Runes. Do not dare cross us with Tech Talk Thursday. There's 2 people who will absolutely know what I'm talking about and probably appreciate that.
and that joke is specifically for them.
Yeah, you know.
But yeah, so we will leave you with that joke. But thank you for joining us on this edition of Tech Talk Tuesday, not Thursday, Tuesday. If you want to read up on anything that Matt and I talked about today, you can find it in the description below. And while you're there, go ahead and give us a follow, a like. That way you don't miss any future editions of Tech Talk Tuesday, and you help us out with those creepy algorithms that help us show up in other people's feeds. If you want to have your question answered live on the air, you can hit Matt or I up on Twitter. Matt's Twitter handle is @TheMattRay, if he can find it. Because again, he's unique. There's only one of them, and there will only ever be one of him. And then mine is @Neil Tardy, because I'm boring and basic, and that's easy to remember. But yes, thank you for joining us. We go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we'd love to have you live. We love to interact with you guys live. So please join us live. And with that, we'll hopefully see you next Tuesday.